The world today, it never shuts up. It's a constant racket. Society is addicted to the noise. It demands you explain your choices, broadcast your 5-year plan, and shout your wins from the rooftops. We're brainwashed into thinking silence is weakness, that if you aren't running your mouth, you aren't in the fight. But there's a different kind of power, one that doesn't roar, it endures. This is the story of Elias, a bloke who learned the hard way that sometimes the loudest move you can make is to say absolutely nothing. Elias was a man built of fire and words. In his town, he wasn't known for what he did, but for what he reckoned he was going to do. A carpenter by trade, but a dreamer by habit. Evenings found him down at the local pub, surrounded by mates, his voice rising above the clatter of pints. Next year, he'd say, slamming his hand on the bar, "I'm building the finest bridge this valley has ever seen. It'll connect the trade routes, I'll be minting it, and this town will be on the map." The lads cheered. The validation? It felt like a drug. The more they clapped, the more he spun the yarn. He talked specs, stone quarries, archways. By the time he stumbled home, he was shattered. Not from a hard day's graft, but from the effort of talking about it. His brain, tricked by the applause, gave him the dopamine hit of a job done, even though he hadn't lifted a single hammer. Days turned into months. The bridge was still just a phantom. When folks asked, "Elias, mate, how's the project coming?" he dodged the question. "Weather's rubbish," or "waiting for the right materials." The cheers turned to whispers, admiration turned to pity. Elias could feel their doubt like a punch in the gut. So he panicked. He talked louder. He promised more. He fought with words to prove he wasn't a fraud. He was drowning in his own noise. One rainy afternoon, after getting roasted by a merchant in the market for being all talk, Elias fled to the riverbank, the exact spot he'd promised to span. He sat in the mud, head in his hands. 30 years old, and he'd built nothing but a reputation for hot air. An old-timer named Kyle, a monk who lived in a shack nearby, found him there. He didn't offer a tissue or a pat on the back. He offered a reality check. He stood over Elias and said, "Your tongue is a thief, lad. It steals the energy your hands need." Elias looked up, defensive. "I've got big plans. I just need them to back me." "Why?" Kyle asked, deadpan. "Doesn't oak tree ask for a round of applause before it grows? You're chasing their belief because you don't have any of your own. You've spoken your power away." The monk then laid down a challenge. "If you want to save yourself," Kyle said, "you need to go cold turkey. Take a vow, not of poverty, but of silence regarding your dreams. For 1 year you build, but you keep your trap shut. Not a word to your mates, not to your haters, not even to yourself in the mirror. Let the work make the noise." Elias wanted to bail. It sounded like prison, but looking at his shaking hands, he knew the big talk had broken him. Maybe silence could put him back together. The first month was absolute hell. Elias went to his workshop, and the urge to run to the pub and announce his comeback was a physical ache. He wanted to scream, "I'm actually doing it this time, it's legit." But Kyle's warning echoed, "Your tongue is a thief," so he zipped it. And a weird thing happened. The energy that usually leaked out in conversation stayed inside the tank. It had nowhere to go but into his arms, his back, his tools. He began to cut the timber. He hauled the stone. When locals passed by and asked what he was up to, he just gave a nod. They called him rude. They called him a hermit. "Check out Elias," they'd snicker. "Finally lost the plot. Doesn't even brag anymore. Must have thrown in the towel." The banter stung, but Elias couldn't release the pressure by clapping back. He had to release it by striking the chisel against the stone. Clang, clang, clang. The anger turned into focus. The need for likes turned into a need for precision. 6 months in, the silence stopped feeling like a punishment and started feeling like a shield. Inside that bubble, Elias found a terrifying clarity. Without the noise of other people's opinions, whether they were hyping him up or tearing him down, he could finally hear his own instincts. He solved problems that would have stumped him before. He wasn't performing for an audience. He was in the trenches with the reality of the stone. And the stone, it didn't care if he was famous. It didn't care about his pitch. It only cared if he was true. By month 9, the structure began to rise above the water. The mockery in the village died out, replaced by a confused awe. They saw arches forming, solid and graceful. They saw Elias, lean, weathered, moving with a quiet, scary intensity. He didn't walk with the swagger of a dreamer anymore. He walked with the weight of a doer. One evening, the merchant who'd roasted him came down to the river. He watched Elias secure a massive beam. "Elias," he shouted, "is this the bridge? It's bloody magnificent. Tell us, how'd you pull it off?" Elias paused. He wiped the sweat from his brow. The old urge to gloat, to say, "I told you so," flared up for a second. But then he looked at the bridge. It stood solid against the current. It spoke for itself. It didn't need a caption. Elias looked at the merchant, gave a small, genuine smile, and went back to hammering. Clang. That sound was louder than any speech he'd ever given. When the year was up, the bridge was done. It was stronger than even his wildest descriptions. The whole village turned out for the opening. They waited for a speech. They waited for the old Elias to grab the mic and reclaim the spotlight. But Elias stood at the back, next to Kyle. "You're quiet," Kyle observed. "Don't you want to take your victory lap?" "Don't need to," Elias replied softly. His voice felt new, unused but heavy. "The bridge is there. They can walk on it. My words won't make the stone any stronger." Elias realized silence hadn't just saved his project, it had saved him. It cured him of the addiction to approval. He'd learned the secret of the greats. Work in the dark, so your light can shine. Listen, we live in an era where everyone broadcasts every single thought. We post our gym selfies before we sweat. We tweet our business ideas before we've made a dime. We mistake the dopamine of likes for the satisfaction of actually crushing it. But when you announce your plans, you trick your brain. You feel like you've already won. You let off the steam you need to power the engine. If you're feeling stuck, if you feel like you're spinning your wheels, try the way of Elias. Go dark, ghost the world for a bit. Choose silence. Stop telling people what you're gonna do. Stop seeking the cheap reward of a pat on the back. Keep your dreams locked inside your chest until they burn a hole through you and force you to move. Build your bridge in silence. Let the world underestimate you. Let them think you've lost the plot. Let them laugh at your quietness. And then, one day, let them walk across what you've built. Because in the end, the world doesn't listen to what you say. It listens to what you finish.